It's really interesting. It's kind of funny that she's kind of the one that got the big head. She's a little sassy, she knows what she wants.
From golden buzzer to courtroom shock, the voice behind the puppet speaks. Darci Lynn Farmer was once America's brightest starlet, the young girl with a puppet in hand and a voice that could silence arenas. At just 12 years old, she wasn't just a talent show winner. She was a cultural reset. Her golden buzzer moment on America's Got Talent felt like watching lightning strike live on national television. And yet, almost a decade later, that very stage has become the battleground for one of the most surprising legal showdowns in entertainment. In 2024, Darci filed a lawsuit accusing a powerful figure from the AGT world of emotional mistreatment. And for the first time, fans began seeing beyond the spotlight into the storm that had been quietly brewing for years. This wasn't just a celebrity lawsuit, it was a revelation. A young woman who had built her entire public identity around positivity, gratitude, and childlike wonder was now stepping forward with claims of long-standing emotional pressure, creative suppression, and personal distress. She was no longer using a puppet to project her thoughts. She was speaking for herself, and the timing couldn't be more crucial. At 20, Darci's quiet courage now speaks louder than any televised ovation ever did. Her voice, once filtered through comedy and innocence, has become a statement, raw, reflective, and unapologetically real. But how did it come to this? To understand Darci's current fight, we have to go back to the very beginning, to a quiet house in Oklahoma where a painfully shy girl discovered an unexpected path to expression. A shy girl, a puppet, and a dream nobody saw coming. Long before the standing ovations, Darci Lynn Farmer was just a quiet kid in Oklahoma City. Born on October 12, 2004, she was polite, soft-spoken, and painfully shy. Her parents, Clark and Misty, remembered her as the type of child who loved to sing for her brothers but froze in front of crowds. It was a church talent show that cracked her shell. At age 10, she stumbled upon ventriloquism, an art form few her age even knew existed. But for Darci, it was more than a gimmick, it was freedom. Behind the puppet, she could hide from the spotlight while still shining within it. Her voice, masked by a character, suddenly felt safe. Inspired by Terry Fator, the AGT winner from 2007, Darci began training with young ventriloquist mentor Lisa Bonaquisti. Her dedication was obsessive. Hours in the mirror, perfecting speech without lip movement, mastering comedic timing, and even singing. In 2014, she won the Mini Miss title at the Cinderella Scholarship Program and started performing at local fairs, jaw-dropping audiences who couldn't believe a puppet could sing like that. 2 years later, a national TV appearance on Little Big Shots catapulted her into viral fame. But all that buzz was only the rehearsal. Her biggest stage and biggest test was yet to come. The golden buzzer heard around the world. In 2017, at just 12 years old, Darci auditioned for America's Got Talent Season 12. Holding a rabbit puppet named Petunia and dressed in a soft pastel dress, she performed Summertime. The result? Instant magic. The judges and the crowd were left speechless. Within hours, the clip became the most watched audition in AGT history. Mel B slammed the golden buzzer, sending her straight to the live rounds. Simon Cowell called her a once-in-a-generation talent. For millions of viewers, Darci wasn't just a contestant, she was a moment. When she won the entire season that September, America had found its new sweetheart. Overnight, she went from being a homeschooled preteen to one of the most in-demand young performers in the country. A nationwide tour titled Darci Lynn and Friends Live followed, starting with a few modest shows and ballooning into a 52-city phenomenon. Tickets vanished in minutes. Media called her the savior of family entertainment. Her Christmas special on NBC drew in millions. Darci was living every young artist's dream. But behind that curtain of confetti, a different reality was unfolding, one that didn't make it into the highlight reels. The cost of a perfect smile. By the end of 2002 Jubileus, Darci wasn't just performing, she was working relentlessly. Interviews, rehearsals, costume fittings, school on airplanes, and creative approvals that even dictated puppet dialogue. Her image had to be spotless, her voice perfect, her answers always grateful. She was a kid trapped in an adult's schedule, one former staffer revealed. And when she expressed fatigue or frustration, the reminder was always the same: you're lucky to be here. As she hit teenage years, the strain grew heavier. The once joyful performances started to blur into obligation. Her connection with Mel B cooled off, with whispers behind the scenes that the former judge had become distant, even critical. The smiles seen on camera were, at times, a performance within the performance. One moment in particular stood out. During a taping, Darci joked through her puppet, "So guys, what part of I'm singing do you not understand?" The audience laughed, but insiders said it wasn't a joke, it was a plea. Darci began to wonder, was this her dream or someone else's creation? The answer would reveal itself in an unexpected way. When the puppet wasn't enough. In 2023, Darci returned to AGT, not with Petunia or Oscar or any of her iconic puppets. This time, it was just her and a guitar, a solo performance, a different Darci. Simon Cowell called her brave, but critics were less kind. Online voices said she'd lost her spark. Talent blogs said her charm had disappeared without the puppets. For the first time, Darci, now an adult, felt invisible on the same stage that once crowned her royalty. This was the turning point. Years of being asked to smile more, do less, than stay adorable finally broke through. She wanted to evolve, to write her own music, to be known not just as that girl with the rabbit, but as a real artist. She spoke to friends about feeling used, unheard, and creatively boxed in. The puppets had always been a shield, but now they felt like a cage. What followed next was not a performance, it was a decision that would change everything she had built. A lawsuit that shook the AGT empire. In early 2024, Darci's lawyers quietly filed a lawsuit. The claim? Emotional distress, creative suppression, and professional misconduct. The target? An unnamed but powerful figure associated with AGT, someone she once looked up to. According to documents cited by entertainment outlets, the person had allegedly ridiculed Darci's ideas, dismissed her attempts to grow, and made comments that deeply affected her mental health. This wasn't about money, this was about identity. For years, Darci had performed under the image others had curated. Now, she wanted to own her story, even if it meant burning the bridge that made her famous. The girl who once whispered through puppets was now confronting the power behind the curtain. And as her lawsuit hit the news cycle, it quickly became clear this was no isolated case. AGT's darker chapters begin to resurface. Darci's lawsuit opened the floodgates. Suddenly, AGT's past controversies were back in focus. In 2021, stunt performer Jonathan Goodwin was critically injured during AGT Extreme. A mistimed car stunt left him permanently paralyzed. In 2022, he sued AGT for gross negligence. The accusation? That the show prioritized spectacle over safety. Then came the chilling claims against Tyra Banks, who was accused in a separate lawsuit of mistreating a young child on set, physically and emotionally. Another case alleged the production's negligence in wheelchair accessibility caused a fatal fall for an elderly attendee. These were no longer random incidents. They painted a disturbing pattern. Now, with Darci's voice joining the chorus, the industry could no longer pretend these were isolated shadows. The question now was, how deep did the darkness go? Silence, isolation, and the road back home. In the weeks after her legal filing, Darci disappeared from public view. No more interviews, no more performances in stadiums. Friends say she was tired, but relieved. The weight of secrecy was finally off her shoulders. Instead of Hollywood stages, she began performing quietly in small Oklahoma theaters. Just her, a guitar, and loyal fans. The puppets? Locked away. Not out of bitterness, but closure. She was no longer hiding behind them. She was healing. Yet public opinion was split. Some praised her courage. Others said she was ungrateful. But for those who truly followed her journey, it was clear. Darci wasn't breaking down, she was breaking free. The silence around her lawsuit may have been legal, but symbolically, it was thunderous. The girl who used to whisper now commands the room. What Darci did wasn't rebellion, it was reclamation. In music circles, whispers began to grow louder. Former contestants quietly applauded her. Some revealed their own stories of being creatively stifled or emotionally drained. AGT had built a brand on feel-good moments. But what happened after the camera stopped? Darci's case forced that conversation into the spotlight. She began writing songs about control, fear, and rediscovery. One unreleased track, reportedly inspired by her puppet-free performance, was called "Push Our Luck." For many, it wasn't just a song. It was her manifesto, a declaration that she would no longer be confined by what others wanted her to be. And as the industry watched, a new version of Darci Lynn began to emerge. More than a performer, a voice for the voiceless. Today, Darci Lynn Farmer stands not as a ventriloquist, but as a symbol. She gave the world wonder, laughter, and innocence, but also showed what happens when you trade childhood for fame. Her story forces us to ask, are talent shows building stars or using them up? Her lawsuit remains sealed, but its impact is already felt. Conversations about ethics, safety, and creative freedom are now louder. For Darci, it's no longer about winning votes or talent titles. It's about reclaiming her voice, and using it to protect others who might be too young or too scared to speak. Because sometimes the bravest thing you can do isn't performing with your mouth closed. It's opening it when no one expects you to.